All right, so at the end of this acceleration series, we are going to be discussing deceleration, which is nothing different than acceleration, but it is just the negative acceleration, right? So first thing that we should know about deceleration is that it is the negative acceleration, right? What do I mean by negative acceleration? By negative acceleration, I mean that the thing, of course, we can, first of all, write down the formula for acceleration, which is the change in velocity per unit time. But the change does not always have to be positive. For example, if a car is, uh, if a car's velocity is, for example, 2 meters per second, and then the driver accelerates and the speed is now, for example, 5 meters per second. So in 1 second, let's say it happened all in 1 second. So in the acceleration of this car is going to be 3 meters per second square because in 1 second it changed its velocity from 2 to 5. But there could be a case in which this does not happen. Instead, we observe the velocity of the car to be already at, for example, 5 meters per second, and then the driver presses brakes, and then the speed drops to 2 meters per second. So in this case, the opposite happens. So the change in velocity, of course, for del v, we know it is always the final value minus the initial value. In this case, the final value is 2 and initial value is 5. So the del V is going to be equal to 2 for the final value minus 5 the initial value, and 2 minus 5 is negative 3, right? So negative 3 divided by 1, acceleration is going to be equal to, if we are interested in acceleration, that is v by t, so then time is going to be 1. We are going to divide it by 1, and it is going to give us negative 3 meters per second squared. So this time we had an acceleration but with a negative sign. So this actually signifies that the acceleration is negative. The car did change its speed in 1 second, but the change was negative. It slowed down instead of increasing its speed. It actually slowed down. So we can actually say the acceleration of this car is negative 3 meters per second square, which means that it slowed down. Or we could just say the deceleration of this car is the acceleration. This is the acceleration. The acceleration is negative 3, but we can also say the deceleration of this car is 3 meters per second square, because deceleration already means negative acceleration. So we are not supposed to add this negative sign this time. We would just simply say 3 meters per second square is the deceleration. Another word to use for the same concept of deceleration is retardation, right? So you could use both, but you just need to remember that you just don't put a negative sign when you're already saying or calling it deceleration. If you're calling it acceleration, then you must put a negative sign to show that the speed is slowing down.